all these different places, but I think there's certain countries really that are sort of part of F1's DNA. You know, France is one of them, Germany is one of them, Britain, and you know they had these races since day one, and I think they should be part of the calendar. You should have Germany on the calendar. You know, be it at the Nurburgring, not obviously not the full Nordschleife. That's a bit too far fetched now. The shortened, the modern Nurburgring circuit and or Hockenheim. And then there's probably some great circuits in France besides Paul Ricard and Manicourt, which are a bit average, you know, which could provide a great Grand Prix.
I guess there are some that are motorbike circuits, and whether they would be. I guess if they do the MotoGP, they're up to a certain standard, but whether it would work out for F1 cars, yet to be seen.
Yeah. Well, I hope we do get to return to France or Germany at some point. You know, I mean, Germany were living the dream at one stage because they had, Schumacher on the grid and Vettel and Rosberg, and now I don't know if there's going to be any German drivers on the grid next year. Oh, they've got Hulkenberg.
Yep.
So Nico Hulkenberg, and that's it now. I think, you know, you've gone from having the likes of Seb Vettel and Michael Schumacher and obviously Mick coming in not great machinery and not doing too much. And now you've just got Nico Hulkenberg in a Haas that's probably going to be bang average, which is a shame.
Who was that young lad that was at one of the back teams? Wehrlein.
Oh, Pascal Wehrlein.
They had. Yeah. He was raved about, but didn't end up coming to much in Formula One. And
I think he went to FE in the end, didn't he? Went to Formula E.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, a lot of ex-F1 drivers seem to migrate to, like Nick Heidfeld and Buemi, and I think Alguersuari went there. Evening, Ben. Welcome in. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. So obviously, I'll come back to the calendar. Like we say, China is being cancelled. It may well be replaced. It may not. But F1 today released and unveiled the 6 races next year that are going to have sprint races. We had 3 this year. We had 3 in 2021, which I think all 3 were at the same event. So you had Austria, Silverstone.
I think I'm going to be at one of them.
Oh, really? Oh, which one are you going to?
Spa.
Ooh, I'm incredibly jealous because you've got, Azerbaijan is going to be the first one. That'll be interesting. Austria is keeping it sprint, and then you've got Belgium, Qatar, which returns to the calendar after being on in 2020. I think, because it jumped in as a replacement for, obviously, with the COVID affected calendar. Was it 2021? No, it's 2021 because Alonso got a podium there. The US, Circuit of the Americas, and Sao Paulo keeps its sprint as well. So the 3, no, because Silverstone had it. So Silverstone has not got a sprint in 2023, but Spa. That'll be interesting. A very quick, is it going to be a quick sprint race? It's a long circuit. I can understand a Grand Prix there. I'm not sure about a sprint, to be honest with you.
I just think it might add a little bit like it does for Brazil.
I suppose with that, you've got the unpredictability of the weather as well. So that could play a big part. But I don't know if a sprint would work, because a sprint seems to work really well around Austria and Brazil, which are quite short, fast laps. It didn't work as well around Silverstone, I find. I don't know if it'd be more the same in Belgium, because although you've got the quick end, the quick finish, you've got all the twiddly bits in the middle. And it's a long lap. I don't know if it would work as well on tracks with longer laps. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. But what else have we got? Azerbaijan. Again, that's a tricky one, isn't it? You know, it's a bit like having a sprint in Monaco, because you've got the walls right there. If you're pushing so hard in the sprint, you're going straight into the barrier. You start the main Grand Prix from towards the back. So, but
what's the first race of the season?
The first race, first race or first sprint race?
First race.
First race is Bahrain.
That's what I thought it was. I actually quite like Bahrain. It's one of those where, like with Melbourne, it's the first on the racing game. So you do it quite often.
I enjoy Bahrain. I think and it does provide some great races. I don't know if I prefer it during the day or at night. I I think at night gives it a nice little aspect, sort of nice different perspective. It's a great circuit. I again putting my nostalgic F1 hat on. I prefer the season starting in somewhere like Australia and having Brazil earlier or Brazil last. But I don't know. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Bahrain will always be the first one. So,
would it be hotter weather if it went to Melbourne at the start of the season?
Good question. I don't know actually, because you've got Bahrain.
Because aren't you just after their summer where we go now? And then that's why you get a little bit of rain and all that sort of thing.
It's either going to be baking hot or chucking it down with rain. It seems in Melbourne. It's another interesting calendar, I think, for 2023. Obviously, a couple more races coming in. Qatar's coming back in there. You've got the first race in Vegas, which I'm a bit skeptical about, to be honest. And then 6 sprint races. Do you think the 6 is a bit too many? Do you think it's just right, not enough? What's your stand?
I think I've said before, I actually really enjoy the sprint races. I'd have you're not convinced, but I'd have plenty more of them.
I don't know. I like a few. I just think because you've got 3 is all right, but 6 I think would probably be my limit that I would stretch to, because it gives it a sort of a fresh element. Whereas if you have a sprint every race or every other race, it gets a bit old and it's sort of, okay, it's just another sprint. Whereas with this, because it only happens sort of once every couple of months, every few months, you get a sort of like, oh, brilliant, it's a sprint race. So you've got a whole different ball game now and how teams are going to handle it. So I think that's why I'm a bit skeptical about having more, because it will lose some of its appeal and its excitement. It's all good having the same format, but change it up.
I think it needs to fit in a bit better with how F1 is at the moment. I think the qualifying still needs to be qualifying. It needs to, the way it's all worded and the way it actually, because what points can be awarded and what things are termed. It's it's a little bit silly at the moment. You win a race, but it's not a race, and
it's strange. You win a race and it counts as a pole position. It's weird. And then it must be a bit sort of like, oh, okay, I've just won a race, but I've got to do it all again tomorrow, but on a bigger, grander scale. I do like the point system that it goes from 8 to 1. It reminds me of the old point system up until 2009, whenever it was, with the top 8 getting points. It was only the podium, I think, that got points in 2021. I think there's a few little tweaks they need to do to it, but I think they're getting there, and it's only going to get better. So we'll certainly see. It will be an interesting set of races, and obviously how teams handle it as well, and how teams approach the sprint weekend. Know that they've obviously got the full race to do, but they've also got half an hour of just bombing it as fast as they can. Do they risk it and go for that, or do they play the long game? So I do like that strategy aspect. Yeah,
it's worked out a couple of times quite well for Lewis in Brazil.
Last to first overall that course on that weekend last year. That was incredible. But we'll certainly see. So moving back on to teams, we still have I know Mattia Binotto is still at Ferrari. He's there until the end of the year. No further confirmation on who's going to be replacing him, who no further sort of fuel to the rumours. I think there's a few names that have been linked with it. One of
Horner soon, blew out the flames on his potential move there.
Yeah, Horner shut that one down. He'll never leave Red Bull, will he? He's going to be at Red Bull until he's no longer in F1.
He's got a Red Bull tattoo.
Has he?
No, he should have.
Probably has. Don't want to see it.
He's not going anywhere else, is he?
No, he'll be at Red Bull until he can no longer carry on. I can see Christian Horner doing a bit of a Ross Brawn, to be honest. He obviously stayed with Ferrari for many, many years.
Is this where you're going to say he'll end up joining a team for one season? Hello.
This is the Oracle speaking. How are we all?
Not too shabby.
Good man. Oh, he's back.
Hello.
Woo!
There we go. The big
What were you
voice.
saying about what is gonna? Is that straight off again?
Yeah.
Is it? It's all right. I'm still here. Look, I'm still here. Don't worry.
Fair enough.
Stay. I need to get this sorted out. No, I don't think he'll join his own team or start his own team. I can just see him stepping into a more official role with F1. So staying at Red Bull obviously for many, many years, and then when he can't do the day-to-day thing with the team anymore, obviously like Ross Brawn then went on to do Brawn GP. I can't see him doing that. I can see him going into a more senior role with Formula One, and then heading into retirement. Obviously, he's got many, many years left in him before he does that. But because he's been around for so long, he's seen so many regulation changes. He'll be there for so many years coming. I think he would. And I think he would suit it, to be honest. He's got a very clever head on his shoulders. Very, very smart man. Some in good ways, some not so much.
I like the bloke until you start hearing him whine and complain about things, and just yeah.
Yeah, he's very much a Marmite character. I think same with him and Toto Wolff, to be honest. Toto obviously also by her linked with a Ferrari job, but that's of no foundation. I think the leading candidate is probably still Fred Vasseur from Alfa Romeo. That'd be good to see.
Yeah, potentially. I'm not 100% convinced that he's done enough for the job, but
he's never been in that big team environment, has he? He's never had a sort of championship contending team, unlike Toto, unlike Christian. He's been, where was he before Alpha? I want to say he was at Aston, but I don't think, no, that was someone else. Either way, he's been around a long time. Sauber, he was with Sauber for a while when they first took over Alpha. He's worked with Charles Leclerc for many years at various different formula. So it'd be good for Charles, I think, if Vasseur was to get this position. And I think Vasseur would make it clear that Charles is the number one, and they'd have a clear direction. Whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But I think it'd be good. I think he would be good. Keep Binotto on the engineering side, I think. Well, no, he's resigned, doesn't he? So he's going to be just leaving Ferrari altogether.
He could end up signing another contract, couldn't he?
Yeah, because he was a very clever engineer. That was more his side of it. He was more of the engineer side of it than what he's doing now. I mean, he gave it a good go, but do Ferrari need to look outside their own company and outside their country to have more success? Because Arrivabene, Binotto, Domenicali, they were all Italians. They're promoted within the company. Do they need to? Their most successful time was when they were run by a Frenchman with a Brit leading the way as well. Do they go elsewhere?
They could do. I think they should open their horizons. But on the other hand, have they got anyone? Because they compete in other formulas. Have they got anyone from that?
Yeah. There could be, someone who is more or better qualified for the job, who's got more experience of leading a championship contending team. As long as they don't take Jost Capito from Williams, I'm fine with that, because I like a bit of Jost at Williams. He's very good for the team. We'll certainly see. Obviously, we'll know probably late this year, early next year, who's going to be replacing him. I think they probably can't wait to make the announcement. They've got someone in mind already, haven't they? Really, there's someone lined up. It's got to be. I can't see them letting Binotto go without having anyone sort of in the wings, essentially.
I think they'll have someone in the wings, but there's no need for them to rush it out into the news or anything, is there?
No, it will come when it comes, and it'll be interesting to see who they do go for. Comment from Metal Jace. Good evening, Metal Jace. Welcome in. Regarding sprint races, no more than 6. What I would like is an alternative circuit layout versus the race, like they had at Bahrain. Yeah, that'd be a good idea, like the Bahrain outer loop. That'd be good.
That's something I was going to mention. If they did a sprint there, do a sprint on the outer and do the normal
that'd be
race.
good. because I don't think any of the ones they're going to have actually got alternative routes, because even though Austria and Belgium obviously held F1 and Interlagos held F1 for decades, the old routes had long gone. I suppose actually what you could do, go back to Hockenheim, re-tarmac the old track, have a sprint race on the old long through the woods circuit at Hockenheim, and then just have the main race on the modern circuit, or vice versa. That's a bit far-fetched, but that would be cool. But yeah, I think the nail on the head there was 6. 6 is a good figure. I think any more and it becomes a little bit samey. Any less, and you sort of think, what's the point, really? You know, you forget about them after a while. You think, oh, yeah, because I totally forgot there was a sprint race in Interlagos. Yeah, it was so long between the second and the third sprint race that, oh, it's a sprint weekend. Is it? Oh, okay, fine. And it just didn't feel as exciting. So, I don't know. Well, yeah, we'll see how they decide to go with it in the future. But, yeah, 6, I think, is pretty much a good ballpark figure, really. I think it's pretty much hit the nail on the head there. And it does keep it fresh. It does keep it exciting. But the trouble is there's not many circuits that they race on that you could potentially get an alternative layout on. Obviously, you've got Bahrain. And I'm struggling. Silverstone has got a few different layouts they could use. Catalonia, I think, has as well. Manicore's got millions of different combinations. So it's Abu Dhabi, actually. But I don't know. It would be nice to see, but I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that having more sprint races makes it samey and makes it a problem. You've got other formulas where they have more than one race over a weekend, and it's not an issue.
No, so I suppose that is true. Even like Formula 2, you obviously get the sprint and the feature race, don't you? So yeah, I can see your point. No, so fair enough. But I think that they've got a nice figure, with 6 there, because I think it would take, if they had any more, it would take some of the excitement out of it as well, and then need less, and it's just forgettable, really. But they should bring back those big wreaths that they all used to have as well. I think Verstappen had one. It was big old thing. You can imagine Verstappen standing there, big wreath around him, cigarette, bottle of champagne. That'd be great. Go full James Hunt. That'd be good. But there we go. We shall certainly see. But if you had to pick a best race of the year for 2022, there were some good ones and some dull ones. What would you go for?
Brazil was good.
Yeah.
But that's because I can remember that one. I'm sure there were some others.
There were some crackers. There were some absolutely dismal ones as well. Belgium wasn't particularly exciting with Verstappen running away with it. Personally, I would say either Brazil, Silverstone, barring Joe Wenu's horrendous crash, or...
Oh yeah, Silverstone we had that absolute titanic battle with Lewis and that, and you had Mick at the end with Verstappen.
Yeah, that was a fantastic race. I would say that, Brazil, or Saudi Arabia, that battle with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. And they were all playing it so clever. They're going to hang back so they can get the DRS and the next person do it on the next lap. And there's a lot of tactics at play there. And there were some dull races, but I think we became accustomed the past couple of years of having more exciting races. So you notice a dull one more. And there were some of those. But yeah, there were some absolute crackers this year. I think Silverstone, for me, probably just takes it. And you got Carlos Sainz's first win as well, which was nice. It was good to see someone different winning a race, even though it could really have been Charles Leclerc had they not bottled strategy again. Carlos did all right.
I enjoyed doing that.
Oh, yeah. And then that was the race with the Bonotto finger wag afterwards, wasn't it, where Charles looking at a face like thunder and Bonotto's going up to him and he's wagging his finger. And
did we go to Canada?
We did. I can't remember how we went.
A good one.
Yeah, Canada usually sticks out. Did we go to Canada? Yeah, we did go to Canada this year, but I can't really remember it. So it mustn't have been a great race in Canada this year, which is a shame because they usually are, pretty decent.
What was Baku like?
Baku,
because that can have some good ones.
Baku, yeah, Baku was okay. That was the one, another Charles Leclerc, another Ferrari engine failure from the lead of the race.
He should have walked it.
Yeah, cost him a lot of points there. Apart from that, Baku was all right. But again, we had so many incredible races last year that some of them were a bit tedious this year. Like last year, you had the Baku with Perez winning and Hamilton going straight on at turn one with that weird magic switch thing. Obviously, Brazil, obviously Silverstone last year, you had the Max Verstappen Hamilton thing, and then Brazil with Hamilton and Verstappen again. Brazil was good this year. It was slipping into a little bit of tedium, and then it all kicked off. And Verstappen and Hamilton magnetized to each other again.
Seems to happen.
It does. They race very differently when they're together, I find. Both Hamilton and Verstappen. But I think it's all good fun to watch. So there we go. Well, speaking of Hamilton though, as we've touched on, in the past on these shows, it was the first time in his F1 career that he's not won a race all season or had a pole position. The first time in his F1 career he's finished outside the top 5 in the championship. All 3 of those stats are incredible. Do you think they'll bounce back next year after the struggles this year? Do you think they've learned a lot from their misfortune, poor design? I don't know.
Well, they seem to have turned it around throughout the season, unlike any of the other teams, really. No one else pushed up the grid, did they, quite the same way?
No, they made a lot of progress, didn't they? Considering at the start Hamilton was
They looked behind McLaren at the start of the season.
Yeah. Hamilton was out in Q1, I think, in Saudi Arabia, and they looked, nowhere. They could pick up a lucky podium here and there, and they were consistent with that. But they never looked like fighting Ferrari or Red Bull. Towards the end, obviously, they then did. Do you think they'll keep with that sort of concept of the zero side pod design next year, or do you think that's sort of been a fundamental part of their issue and they'll go back to a more standard-looking car?
To the media, they're adamant that isn't the problem and they're going to stick to it. I'll be intrigued to see if they don't do a little bit of a Red Bull copy like everyone else seems to have started doing. We'll see. I think it'd be nice for them to try and get what they apparently got wrong correct this time. And keep the zero side pod and basically let everyone know that we told you it weren't the problem and it's not.
I just want to see 3 teams fighting again next year for the front. I want to see more teams fighting, but ideally Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari all in the fight together. But even just something simple as having more teams being able to fight for the odd podium. You only had 1 podium outside the top 3 teams, Lando back in Imola. Alpine never really looked anywhere near there. And then you had other midfield teams like Alfa Romeo, Aston, obviously Haas and Williams. There was never really a chance for another team to get that podium because it was always going to be Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari. Mercedes really, if the top 2 teams messed up, which they did a lot, certainly the team in red. I just want to see a closer field so you can get a McLaren podium, an Alpine podium, a Williams podium, ideally. It's been a lot of years since Williams' last podium. Well, it hasn't. It's been 2021. It just feels like a long time as a Williams fan. But that was a podium.
It's a fair time.
It's a fair time. It was a podium that was debatable as a podium because it was in Belgium. Before then, it would have been 2017, I think. So, a long time. And there we go. We'll certainly see. Hopefully, we'll get a nice competitive season next year. It just feels like the off-season's going fairly quickly so far, I find. We've had footage of drivers in cars, bombing it around Fiorano today. Charles Leclerc was in the Ferrari. I think it'll go fairly quickly. I hope. I'm just missing the content. But there we go. I think that is our half an hour pit stop completed. So thank you very much for watching and for getting involved. We will see you Wednesday, usual time, 7:15. Hopefully around that sort of time anyway. where we hope to have another nice busy week of Formula One news. Who knows what's going to happen? We might get a new Ferrari team principal announced. I don't know. Hopefully, we'll have a nice busy off season. Anyway, I've been Steve. He has been. Side. I'm used to being on that side. He has been Positivity. Now you're just confusing me. I have been Steve. He has been Neil. Thanks very much. In the background, there has been the Gov as the Oracle, the voice. So we shall see you next week. And he's done it again. Cheers.